Hi, and welcome to Wellness Chats with Dr. Ifill-Taylor. This podcast was called All That's Well, and we changed the name just recently, and so I hope those of you who subscribe to All That's Well will go on and subscribe to Wellness Chats with Dr. Ifill-Taylor. It's the same podcast, but a little bit broader subject matter. This podcast was begun to have a space where we can have discussions about our emotional, physical, and spiritual wellness, and that those discussions could take place in a way that allows us to be informed and allows us to just kind of think different ways and hear from other people about how we're each pursuing our wellness, not just our individual wellness, but the wellness of our families and our communities. So on this podcast, we try to have people in talking about things that are going on right now, sometimes what's going on in the news that affects us, sometimes what the kinds of things that we need to eat or the kinds of things we need to do in terms of working out, the kinds of things that can help us like yoga and massage, are things that can help us with our mental health and our spiritual health as well. I'm an adult and child psychiatrist, wellness coach, mother, singer-songwriter, gardener, etc., etc. I've got a lot of things that I do. And my work over the years has led me to focus on our individual, family, and community wellness in a way that drives me towards a wish to help us practice self-care and consider the impact of our community wellness on our personal and family wellness. Today, I'd like our discussion to focus upon the impact of COVID-19 on the 2020 back-to-school season. We all know that parents, teachers, and students have been greatly impacted from preschool through graduate school by the changes that we've had to make in order to keep us safe in the face of a pandemic. And most of us who are alive have not experienced one before. It's brand new, and it's been, pretty devastating. Last week, we heard from an educator, over a 25-year educator, Dr. Olivia Lynch, regarding this, and she had some really very strong feelings about how we're approaching this school year. This week, I'd like I wanted our guest to be someone who was who had children in school and who was experiencing this from the parent standpoint. And so this week, our guest is a parent of 3 school-age children who, with her husband, is attempting to manage this challenging 2020 back-to-school time. Welcome, Jen Swedeen. Jen?
Hi. Hello. Thank you for having me.
Welcome to Wellness Chats with Dr. Ifill-Taylor. So I was particularly interested in just talking with a parent who was just, experiencing this thing, basically on the ground, boots on the ground. As it were. And so if you could just tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, what you do for a living, what your husband does, and are you working from home now, or how you, just tell us, how are you managing all of this? 3 children.
Okay, so I have kind of a weird job. I'm a photo retoucher for photographers. Basically, I'm a service provider to the photography industry. It's a really narrow niche that I have. So I run a team of retouchers, which includes my husband. He works for me full time. And then I also have a small team of virtual assistants for photographers as well. So I've always worked from home, which is lucky for this. I know I certainly have a leg up in that arena because I understand working from home and I don't have to fight that battle as well.
Yes.
But because I'm used to working from home, I'm used to working from home very specifically and consistently. So having 3 new people in my space and a lot of things to accommodate, we spend many more hours each week on their stuff than on our stuff. So we're working later hours to, compensate. And
So Jen, how old are your children?
13, she's in 8th grade. 11, he's in 6th grade, and 10, she's in 5th grade.
So elementary school and middle school, and that in and of itself has its own challenges. You know, when you have one or two children, you know, sort of in a different, if they're all in the same school, it kind of helps a little bit. So now you have they have different needs and different points of focus, and certainly different academic needs.
Yes, and different hormonal needs.
And different hormonal
a new challenge that we're learning as well.
Yes, so middle school is the one. So I was just thinking as you were speaking, so you and your husband didn't have to make that adjustment to working at home together. I've spoken with many, you know, in my work, many couples where neither one of them worked from home, and since COVID-19, now they are working from home together, sort of carving out that space literally and figuratively, and then having to accommodate, you know, the children being home as well. So at least you and your husband always worked together from home prior to this. Is that right?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we broached that learning curve already.
Yes.
So we can tolerate each other's space and working together. All that comes with that, which is very fortunate. I know we're super fortunate.
Okay, so that is really helpful. So tell me then, literally, how did you set up home, and what is the setup with your children? I'm imagining maybe different for the 10 and 11-year-old than the 13-year-old. I spoke with you ahead of time, so I know that they are in public school. What is the setup? Are they having a hybrid setup, or what are they doing?
So we're part of CMS, so CMS is doing all virtual learning for now until they decide that it's safe to go back. But they also gave parents the option to opt into remote-only learning, meaning we'll also be virtual alongside everyone else, but we'll decide when they go back. So if the school decides in October it's safe and they resume in person, we can resume in person at that time, or we can wait until the end of the semester or carry it through the year. And we chose that because I don't totally trust school systems to decide when it's really safe.
Sure.
None of us are high risk, luckily, but also I'm taking it as seriously as I think everyone should take a pandemic.
You should take it, yes.
We're completely isolated unless we have to go out.
Yes. So I just want to let our listeners know, because we have a lot of listeners not from this state. So CMS, so we're talking about Charlotte and Mecklenburg schools. It's the school system, largest school system in Charlotte, North Carolina. And what I'm hearing different things from so many, we just have so many different school systems. And so in this school system, it is all virtual, so they don't go in any days at this point, and then you can opt in as parents to decide when the school does open whether or not you want to continue virtual. Okay, so that's different. And I understand, I certainly understand, why wouldn't you opt for that?
A lot of people opted for that much more than they expected.
Oh, sure.
So they initially rolled out the option that there would be like a 2-week transition period where kids would be split to groups and would go for a few days to orient themselves.
Yes.
But there was such an overwhelming response of people opting into the full remote learning that they scrapped that from day one.
Well, I'm actually happy to hear, just the idea of the school system pivoting, when just getting information, hearing from parents on what they do and don't want to do, and then making the pivot to be able to accommodate that, because I think that's so necessary at this time. I mean, no one really knows what the ideal is.
It's not common, so it was nice to see that.
That's right. So that they presented that to you all made your decision. So tell me in a literal sense how you set this up. So do the kids is there a room that's being used as the classroom? Or are they in the dining room area and everyone's at a table? How are you managing to do your job at the same time? Do you and your husband switch off? What do you do?
So we're still in the process of figuring out what's going to work here. With 5 of us, doing all the things all the time, it's a lot of moving parts. So initially we thought about setting them all up in one room, but then it became very clear very quickly that they trusted with that. They're going to mess with each other the whole time. They're going to distract each other. And, just being alive can be a distraction when you're a sibling of 3.
Yes.
So currently we've got one in our main office at his own desk. We've got one in the dining room, which is adjoined to the office, so it's all open space. And then we've got one in the living room. And then I set up a kind of a second auxiliary office for myself in a room that's kind of off of the living room. So I can one of us can keep line of sight on the living room student, and one of us can keep line of sight on the other 2 students.
Yes. Because
their schedules are really, it's a lot to keep on top of.
I can imagine.
And we have to be physically, or, it dissolves into chaos very quickly.
Absolutely. And so the teacher is Zooming in to all of the students in their class. Let's say, let's pick the 11-year-old. So everyone in that 11-year-old's, in your child's class, is on that Zoom call at the same time with the one teacher?
Yeah, yes. They have it broken up into synchronous and asynchronous learning. So synchronous is like one-on-one in a live Zoom, and asynchronous is independent study or just a brain break or a review time. So they're on a lot of calls, but not as many as I expected.
Okay.
And it seems like the calls are not nearly as structured as they could be. But, I give them a lot of grace for them trying to figure this out at the same time. And a lot of these children, my children's age, don't have anyone at home with them to keep them on point and under control. So it's a tricky situation all around. But it's kind of, they're not actively engaged in a classroom type setting nearly as much as I expected them to be.
Okay.
Which is good, because none of us want them to be on the calls all the time or on the computer all the time. But on the flip side of that, it makes it very challenging because they have a lot of open periods where it's an independent study block for an hour, or one of my kids has office hours and then lunch and then independent study. So that's like a 2-hour break in the middle of the day. And we all know that you can't transition back to working after a 2-hour break. And you can't really force yourself when you're a middle schooler to actually do independent study. When you're like, well, I don't have to do anything for 2 hours. I'll do it later. And then you don't.
Yeah. And how does the work... Oh, boy. I just got tired. I was picturing your whole scene, and I just got tired. So how does
a lot of us like? What are you supposed to be doing right now? And referencing. Because none of the blocks line up. The 2 in middle school, the class times don't line up. It's not like everyone starts this block at 9:45. Everyone starts this block at 10:30. It's all staggered, and it's all different. So, and there's A day and B day. And there's, between the 3 of them, we have 14 different teachers, plus the elementary school connect teachers. Sure. So really, we've got close to 20 teachers that all use the systems differently, and all have different expectations.
So let me just ask you, as a parent in this situation. So some school systems are doing doing a hybrid setup where the children come in on Monday. I'm thinking about one patient that I spoke with today, her children. They go in Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. I think it's the way it's set up. So they go into school Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and then they work virtually on Wednesday and Friday. How would you have felt about that if they had set it up that way?
No, I think that's horrible. There's as many moving parts as we have now. I feel like there would be just as many moving parts, but then the added back and forth and exposure opportunities, and I don't understand how that's safer.
No.
How that's just making life harder for parents, especially that work outside of the home. I don't understand that logic.
Yeah. There's such a variance. It's part of the reason why I wanted to talk about this on the podcast, because it's really a tough call and a tough situation for all of you, for teachers, for parents,
everyone,
for parents and for students.